I'm Katrina, and this is Tare. Today I want to talk to you guys about your animals. So we have animals that we live with in our houses, like cats and dogs that people grew up with. We know them pretty well. We know how they act pretty well. And then we have our farm animals, and they're going to be a little different than the cats and dogs you grew up with. So if you are someone who grew up with a cat or a dog and you kind of know how pets work and how they, respond to things and all of that, having quail or chicken or rabbits or, likely even horses and cows around or goats, they're going to be a lot different. So I personally have rabbits and quail and chickens, so I don't have experiences with the larger animals. However, they are all prey species. So we think of them, you may even have a pet rabbit or pet chicken, we may think of them as pets. And the way most of us grew up to treat pets and to all of that is from a carnivore standpoint. So cats and dogs are carnivores, and yes, dogs eat lots of plants, but they are carnivores and they're, predators. And so they have a much different social structure. They have a much different confidence and different things they may or may not fear. And then these other animals, which mostly are going to be your farm type animals. So if you think about a rabbit, they are pretty much bottom of the food chain. Same thing with a bird, a quail or chicken. They're also bottom of the food chain, or food web. It is a web, it's not a chain. And so that have some challenges with it. If you raise them from when they're young, then there's less issues because they know you know them, they know what's expected, you know what's expected, all of that. However, if you bring an animal from elsewhere into your care, and this may be an animal that was well taken care of, it may be an animal that's not well taken care of, there are a few things that you need to understand in order to take care of that animal appropriately. So one, always, if you have other, like if it's a quail and you're bringing in more quail, quarantine your new quail. Have a place that you can quarantine them separately so that if they do have a disease or something, you can actually deal with that separately, and your quail, your existing covey doesn't get affected. If you are bringing in an animal that you are going to have to rehab, consider what is needed for the rehabilitation of that animal. And oftentimes that's things like cleanliness, if they have mites, if they have some sort of infection, or if they just need to recover. Maybe they have some sort of muscle issue or scabs or something like that. So you need to pay attention to those things that they need if it's a rehab situation. But then also an animal that's in that type of situation or just from another place and doesn't know you, and they really need to get to know you. And if you think about them being a prey animal, you are a predator. And that relationship in nature is basically, hey, I'm going to eat you, which may or may not be true if you're farming. However, we want to have all of the animals comfortable and cared for, and one of the ways you can do that is to recognize the limitations that they have as prey and then make them comfortable through that. So one thing I do whenever I approach my aviaries or the raviary, the chickens see me coming, but whenever I approach these guys, I start talking, whether that's talking to someone that's with me or to someone, whatever. I'll say, hey birdies, or hey bunnies, I'm coming. And that gives them a heads up. So if you think about it, the quail are this big, right? And I'm not this big. And if someone showed up to your front door, opened your house, and was a giant without any warning, that would be scary. A lot of people talk about their birds are flushing, or, even the rabbits might, run around or something. That is because you're not giving them the chance to see that you're coming, to know that you're coming, to have a regular presence with you, a regular routine with you. And so that routine for me, it's to talk to them. It's to tell them I'm coming, and they know I'm coming then, and it's not a surprise. So I don't get, there's one quail in this one that flushes, but in general I don't get birds flushing. All the rabbits are happy to see me and all of that. So that's one thing, is to learn not to surprise them, and to have your approach be something that is routine and accepted, and they're like, okay, I know who's coming. It's not going to be a surprise. Oh, they might have treats. You know, have some sort of routine with them, even if it's not every day, or maybe it's multiple times a day. And that's what I do, is I let them know I'm coming verbally. Another thing with animals that either are needing some rehab, and or animals that are already adults, or already, they weren't born with you, they're coming from somewhere else, they need to get used to you. So a lot of times, especially people with kids, the kids are really, really eager to, pick up the bunny, or pick up, same thing happens with cats, right? Or a little kid carrying around a cat like that. But they are so eager to have contact with the animal that we forget, or probably don't even know. A lot of people probably doesn't even pass through their brain that the experience on the other side is maybe not the same as your experience. If you see there's a bunny and you're bringing a bunny into your life, it's a cute fluffy bunny and it must be pet and loved and all that. Well, to that rabbit, if it hasn't had that attention, some people give the rabbits attention. I pet my rabbits know what that is. Some people don't. And some people, if they're selling baby rabbits and stuff, sometimes they just let mom raise them, and then when it's time to sell them, they sell them. And sometimes that is the truth. And so it's good to check in and see what level of interaction they've had before making that kind of decision. Also, understand that when you go, oh, I want to pet you, I need to pet you, what that's doing to that animal is going, oh my gosh, you're going to attack me. Are you going to eat me? Are you going to, what's going on? They're not understanding, they're potentially not understanding your intentions. As a prey animal, everything wants to eat them, and they know it. They're like, okay, is this dangerous or is this not dangerous? And we've all heard of fight or flight, and they need to make that decision. An animal will generally make that decision within about 15 minutes. So if you have a new animal, have a few animals with you, stay outside their enclosure or stay outside their area and talk with them, and so they can see you and they get used to your presence and also used to your voice. If you want to sit outside their hutch or their aviary or whatever and talk on the phone, that would be just fine, because they're getting used to you being there and they're getting used to your voice. And hopefully you're talking to your animals. That, to me, I think it's a good interaction. It also lets them have a comfort of, oh, this is who's here. I know what their voice sounds like. Okay, and so that's a good thing to do. When you are outside of their enclosure, if you start slow, depending on how much of this they need, depending on where you get them, they might not need it all. But if they really, really are skittish, start just outside. Like here, I'm I don't know, 15 feet away from the aviary, 20 feet away from the aviary. I mean, they already know me, but they are outside, or I am outside, but they can still hear me, they can still see me, they see that I'm moving, but I'm not moving too much. Quick movements in these first times are not good. Be slow in your movements. Don't go too close too quickly. And about in 15 minutes, they'll decide whether or not they think you're a danger. Now, once you go inside their enclosure, that might take more time. But I recommend taking it as steps, and don't actually reach for the animal. wait for the animal to come to you, because if you sit in the aviary, you sit in with the chickens, you sit with the hutch door open in the raviary. Raviary is rabbits over quail over here, and wait for the rabbits to come to you. I'm currently working on socialization with 2 rabbits over in the Rackin house, and those were ones that I did not have much contact with as babies because I did not plan to have them as breeders. Their mom died and I decided to keep them back as breeders. So I am having to go through this process still. And I sit in there with the hutch doors open, and I have a hand in each of their, because they're right next to each other, I just put my hand in each one of the hutches and I talk to them. And they approach me. So it takes a while for them to approach. Then once they approach, they're like, oh, okay. Oh, I can smell you. Okay, you're okay. And then sometimes it's like, okay, you can pet me. And then you can pet them for a little bit. And then sometimes they're like, wait, what was my decision? I don't like this anymore. So then as time goes by, that gets better. And so that is my recommendation, is don't go reaching for animals that clearly are not ready for that. And if you literally put your hand in the enclosure, sit down in the aviary, they will come to you. There's so many times I'm sitting on the sandbox, or I have a little seat in the aviary where a quail will come up and just walk over my foot. And it's not a big deal. No, there's something there and I just walked over it, And the more time you spend with your animals, the better that process will be. But it all comes from the understanding that these are prey animals and have to be treated as such. So they are, fight or flight. And for a prey animal, it's mostly flight. So be patient with them, take your time, and when they are ready to come to you, then that is when you can start doing the working up to petting them, working up to holding them, that kind of thing. Because if you go too quickly with that, you can create a response where they're like, I don't want to do that. That was really scary. I don't want to do it again. And so I guess I just wanted to share with you that concept of kind of what we all grew up with, is mostly a predator, and they act differently. They're more confident in their actions. You still might have to spend time with like an abandoned dog or something. You still might have to spend that time, and the same steps would still apply. But for something like a quail or a rabbit, or even a chicken, if it's been in a bad situation, or even if it's been in a situation where it hasn't been handled much, which is not necessarily a bad situation, just factual, hasn't been handled, then that is a process to go through, because once they've accepted you and said, okay, you're not scary. Well, once you're not scary, they have to decide whether or not they like you, right? And that's another thing, is that process is going to have to happen multiple times. So once you're not scary one time, tomorrow you could be scary again. So it needs to happen several times before they're like, oh, you're good. Not only are you not scary, but I like you. I want you to pet me, or I want you to be here. So it does take patience, and it does take time. So anyway, I just wanted to give you guys that little tidbit that came from an interaction with one of you guys. So thank you for that idea for content. That's helpful. And have fun with it. It will take some time. It will. It may move fast. It may move slow. That's going to be individually based. Come at it with an understanding that they're prey, and I think that will do a lot. I think that will head you in the right direction of how to interact with these animals. So I hope you enjoyed this little short video today. Please hit the like if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day. Go outside, sit with your animals, sing to your animals, and they will eventually turn around and say, okay, I like you. Have a wonderful day.